All right, what's up, Mortgage Coach and Trust Engine community? I am super pumped. I'm interviewing Shay Jenkins out of Denver, Colorado for the third time. What's up, Shay?
What's up? How are you doing?
Doing great. I still use a clip from that first interview I did with you last year.
Really?
Yeah, where we took a little 1 minute clip of where you were just talking about that top realtor that
Yes.
you CC'd a realtor on and how she like called you and was like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah.
I
Yep.
still use that all the time.
Good. I'm glad you like it because it was the truth.
Yeah,
And she still uses us to this day.
I love that. And
Yeah.
anyone who's hearing it and you don't know what we're talking about, we'll put a link down below to the first time I interviewed Shay. I can't remember what the headline was, but it was basically how you're killing it in the market.
Yeah.
And how are you faring in this market right now?
How am I doing in this market right now?
Yeah.
I'm hanging in there. We're hanging in there. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not gonna say that it's the easiest market that we've ever been in. It's actually the hardest market I've ever been in. I've been doing it for 8 years, so I haven't gone through something crazy tumultuous. But we're hanging in there. We're still producing. We're finding ways to navigate through everything, right? So like with all the things that keep coming out with loans, like LLPAs, the NAR lawsuit, just high interest rates, everything, we just have to find a way to work around them. So I'm not going to say it's been the easiest, but we're surviving and we're thriving and we're still closing deals.
Yeah. And I do want to qualify because you said you've been in it for 8 years, but you were an assistant for most of those years, right? You've been
5.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this is your third full-time year.
Yes, it is. Literally
Yeah.
just like a week ago. It was my 3-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
So
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah. And also to qualify, because when we were prepping, they barely made the President's Club at New American, which is not easy to do. I mean, there's a lot of loan officers at the company you're at, and you made the President's Club. So
Yeah.
while it's tough and you don't like your numbers, I mean, you're doing really good.
Still there. Yep. I think about like 15 to 20 people made it out of about our region, which is like 6 or 7 states. So feeling good, having to be doing something right still.
Well, you should be proud of that. And this is a market to get gritty. It's a gritty market, and I know that you're a gritty player in the marketplace.
Yep, lots of competition, so got to stay one step ahead of the game for sure.
Well, that's the headline here: is how do we get ahead of this NAR settlement? So why don't you share how you feel about it, and then also I want to hear, like, when you think of all the different realtors that you're interacting with, what are you hearing? You're in Denver, Colorado. You're like a field reporter in Denver, Colorado for this community right now. How are you feeling and how are they feeling in Denver?
Yeah, it's split, honestly. So I feel like, I don't want to say the newer agents, but I have to come up with the right word. The agents with not a lot of maybe knowledge, or maybe a little bit newer, they are very freaked out, right? They don't know what to do. They're thinking buyer's agents aren't just going to get paid altogether, right? And so when it was announced about a month or 3 weeks ago, I mean, nothing is going to be like done until July, but Instagram, social media just blew up, and it was really either one way or the other. It was a bunch of agents freaking out, saying that they're going to have to get part-time jobs or they're going to get out of the business altogether. And then there were agents, I feel like, who have been doing a lot longer and kind of know them and what they could sell and their worth. They were almost embracing it in a way, right? Even one guy, and I don't know if he was just doing this for social media, but one guy was like, I am so happy this is happening because it's going to weed out all the agents that don't belong, all the agents that, are not educated. So it's really been both ways. What I personally think about it, I mean, loan officers went through this with the Dodd-Frank, where they had to, adjust their commission as well. So Sarah and I kind of did a video on it where we're like, hey, we've been through it. Everybody adjusts, right? It's going to be okay one way or the other. You just need to educate yourself on it. And as a buyer's agent, also a listing agent, they have a lot to do with it as well. Is like, you need to sell your worth, right? You need to say why it is so important to have a buyer's agent, what you do, the negotiations that go into place. And then it also comes back to us as loan officers of how can we give both sides value as well. But it's been a hysteria. I think it's been like the only thing on my Instagram feed for a month straight. So it's just something new we have to navigate around, you know?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to go away anytime
No.
soon. And I think nationwide, when you think of the number of agents that are buyer's agents that are having to get a signed agreement, it's low. And even though there are states where agents are getting signed buyer agreements, they're not doing it before they show a home, and they're not negotiating their comp, And so I do think when you put in those two elements, like basically every buyer agent's going to have to do what every listing agent's always done: have a killer presentation, deliver a killer experience,
Right.
negotiate a comp, get an agreement signed. And a couple hours ago, I interviewed the #1 realtor in America, and I asked him, Jason Mitchell, that'll be on our YouTube channel any day now. And he's like, the loan officer realtor partnership has never been more important. That they're working together. I do think it's going to be great news for people like you that deliver consistent experiences and processes, and that you're a mortgage coach, and you're delivering, more than just, hey, here's your rate, here's your fee, and you're pre-qualified. Like, you're really helping consumers go, make big decisions. And I think it will shine well on your realtors. You agree with that?
Oh my gosh, more than ever, more than ever. It's always been so important, but now that buyers and sellers know this, they want all the touchy feely they can get, right? So yes, it's so important, so important.
So let's just ask the question: give me the playbook you're operating on. How are you getting ahead of the NAR settlement in Denver, Colorado? Like, what are you and your production partner doing? And what's the checklist to turn this NAR thing into a competitive advantage? And don't worry if you don't got it all baked. I'll add a few thoughts of my
That's
own.
fine.
And we'll together, and everyone watching this, think of this as just like a virtual mastermind where, right now, kind of pull out your piece of paper, because I think most loan officers have a playbook, although it's probably not as complete as it needs to be. And let's just work this together. So what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, #1 thing is going to be value, right? What can I, as a loan officer, aside from getting your client pre-approved, what more can I bring you in value, right? So yes, we try to go after heavy hitting agents. Obviously, that's always a goal, but there are a lot of great newer agents in the market right now. And I feel like loan officers have kind of gotten away from that. I don't want to say altogether, but we know that production is a bit lower, right? So you kind of try to always go after the bigger agents. But what Sarah and I have gotten back to this year is really just going back to the basics. So we've been contacting newer agents, newer to mid agents that probably don't get a lot of love from real estate agents. And especially when we see them on Instagram, being kind of scared about the NAR lawsuit, I will get in there right away and I will DM them, right? And try to set up a meeting. So Sarah and I that's my business partner, we did 3 agent meetings last week. And we talked all about the NAR lawsuit, and, they told us their worries. And, you hear them out, you validate, you understand, but then that's where you say, but you need somebody then, Mr. Buyer's agent, who is going to back you, who is going to bring you value, right? So we get into everything. We just really, again, take it back to the basics, what we do from beginning to end. So not only do we call our clients every time, we never have an assistant do it, it's us on the phone. So we sell them on that they're going to have us from beginning to end, right? And then when we talk about the pre-qualification process, I always bring up Mortgage Coach every single time. Now, some of the newer agents, some of them know what Mortgage Coach is, but a lot of them do not, right? So even if they don't have a buyer to send to us yet, I could send them a link to another coach that I've done, and I record on it every time, and I'll send it to them, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is great. And again, the question that we get every time is, how long did this take you? Can you do this for my client? And I'm like, yes, absolutely, absolutely we can. So Mortgage Coach is one of our, outside of selling ourselves, right? As cool people who work hard, Mortgage Coach, I mean, is my definite go-to. And I think, to kind of circle back to your original question, is how is this going to help? How can this benefit the NAR lawsuit? We need to educate buyers and sellers how important it is to have two agents on each side, right? Negotiating for you on your best behalf. And so we as loan officers need to do these agents services and sell them back too, right? So if you are kind enough to give me a lead, I'm going to sell you back and put everything that I have, my best foot forward. So those buyers know that their agent did them a very good service in referring us, if that makes sense. I kind of talked a lot there, but.
Well, listen to this just to validate what you just said. Jason Mitchell, #1 realtor in America, put a link down below to that interview. He said, #1, be a conversion partner. And when you think of conversion, it's helping convert that buyer into a buyer's agent contract. And so that, because they can't sell the home without the buyer's agreement. So be that upfront conversion partner. And then second, he said, be that third party trust partner, like your ability to do things like dual agency, making sure they have a buyer's agent, and then really rolling into, just how great that person is. And I've always thought that's also something, and I don't know if you're doing this now, but when you do the video to the borrower or to the buyer, are you doing a little edification of the agent within that video?
Oh, absolutely.
So you're doing that already.
Yep. Absolutely.
What do
we
you
have
say?
to.
What would be a soundbite of in your Mortgage Coach videos? Like, what would be a common way in which you'd be a trust partner?
From the very beginning. So when we do a Mortgage Coach, whether it's 4 options, 1 option, 3 options, I'll typically always start by saying like, hey, Mr. Buyer, thank you. So, it was great talking to you today. You have Joe Smith that sent you over. You are so lucky that you have him as your agent. Like, I've worked with him in the past. He's great at negotiating. He's great at getting seller concessions. You are in such good hands, right? And just say something like that. And so, because usually when I send the Mortgage Coach, I always CC the agent every single time. So that way they kind of know what they're approved for too. And if you give them that validation back right up front, #1, they're going to listen through your whole video, which is good. And they're going to know that you have their back, right? And that you're selling them back every single time. So even before I even do a Mortgage Coach and I get them on the telephone and I'm taking a loan application, because I always try to do it over the phone. That's another super important thing. I always try to take the mortgage application over the phone and not just send a link. But when I get them on the phone as well, I'll always maybe talk about like a little story of a deal me and that agent had, or I'll figure out how they know each other first and just make it a really comfortable conversation, sell them in that first initial conversation. And then once we do the pre-approval and we do a Mortgage Coach, then you're doing the same thing. So it is creating that trust and that comfortability.
Yeah. Another thing that Jason said, well, I already mentioned how you need to be that conversion partner, but one of the ways that he's become so successful is that there's a Jason Mitchell way. There's a standard, and that, every person in his company, as they scale, they use the tech, they always do it in consistent ways. And I do think most buyer's agents don't have a standard. They don't have a way in which they deliver that presentation. And so I think there's a really big opportunity for people like you to create, like, here is a standard that I have. Of course, I'm open to, in some nuanced ways, changing it. But how do we together create a standard? So like, you're not only coming to the realtors and say, hey, I'm a great loan officer and I'm going to help you all the ways that a mortgage coach does, but
Right.
you're going to help them create a standard, because and I'll bet you all the, let's just call it non-best producing realtors,
There
one of
you
the
go.
things they don't have a standard. They don't have a standard way in which they do things, most likely. So I
Right.
think there's an opportunity for you to almost be like a sales coach and
Yeah.
a strategy coach. Is that something you've leaned into with some of these agents already?
I mean, yeah. So a lot of our top producing agents, they are very loyal and they typically always send us their buyers, right? And so they're used to the mortgage coach. It's what they expect and it's what they should expect, right? So I'm sure that they talk about that. I'll tell you a story with one of those, but the newer agents that we're starting to show more love to, again, a lot of them didn't know what mortgage coach was. So I feel like that's a good point that you bring up, is once they start seeing the mortgage coach and how we treat their clients and how easy it is to read and understand, I think that that's something that they should expect moving forward, and if they're with another lender, and the other lender isn't doing that, they'll understand the value of it. So I think that's really cool, is just like, yeah, maybe you can coach them and advise them on having a certain way to do things.
Love,
Absolutely. And
love.
I was going to tell you a story real quick. So I was going up, and all the lenders in here are going to know what I'm talking about, but going up against an online lender, right? Like the Guaranteed Rates of the world or the Rocket Mortgages of the world, right? Not every time are we going to have the best pricing, but they hear about Rocket Mortgage online and they just call them and they get these quick pre-approvals that sometimes, fall apart. And typically we are going to have higher rates, not by much. But that's what people are looking at. People are very conscious on rates, extremely conscious, especially in this high rate environment. So I was going up against a Rocket Mortgage. This was about a month ago, and it was for a pretty big loan amount. I think it was like a 750 loan amount. It was right there with the conforming high bow jumbo loan limits. And Rocket Mortgage came in about 0.375 lower than us, right? Which is a lot in this rate environment. But Rocket Mortgage, literally, they filled something out online. They sent him a pre-approval. They tried calling. They couldn't get a hold of him, anything like that. So my agent that I've worked with for a long time sent them over to me on the weekend, took the loan application, literally popped in a mortgage coach within like 5 minutes and sent it over the weekend. And that buyer was so impressed by the mortgage coach. He kept calling it graphs. He said, oh my gosh, your graphs are amazing and it's so easy to understand. And he's like, I just can't thank you enough for taking the time to put this huge presentation together for me over the weekend, right? Because we went over the options and then we went into the more info, broke the payments down, went into closing costs, broke those payments down, but it literally took me like 5 to 6 minutes to put together. But he just said, oh my gosh, your graphs are so amazing. And he never talked to Rocket Mortgage again and went with us. Now, a lot of buyers would say, okay, thank you for doing that. But I'm still going to go with this lower rate, not a lot, but some would. And so it was literally the mortgage coach that saved us on this one. And I had called the agent about an hour after I sent it, and he said, okay, they're going with you. And I said, okay, well, why? Like, why are they going with us? And he's just like, the rate isn't, they care about rate, but the fact that you sent that mortgage coach and explained it to them, they feel way more comfortable with you. So that was a huge win.
Yeah, no, congratulations for, delivering that kind of value to a consumer. And I truly believe that when we go above and beyond, and I'm sure you educated that borrower, like they got some wows. So let's, I know you've got a lot of mortgage coaches that you can show, but any that come to mind right now that you can maybe walk us through and show us how you're winning in the market today as a mortgage coach? And if you have any
Sure.
rep versus own you know, we're trying to bring, you know, and I do think, especially with this NAR settlement, the
Mhm.
first time home buyers are rattled. You know,
That's
they're
that's the biggest ones is gonna be the first. I have one that I just put together. I think it was over the weekend. Let me share that with you guys. And it was just one option. It was a simple, super simple mortgage coach. Here we go. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Okay. So it was somebody who was referred to me and they were looking at a specific condo range. And so I just put this one together real quick. You could see that it's a lower loan amount, but she is so excited to purchase. So the fact that she was qualified, she was super excited. We sent this one out over the weekend and we're hoping to hear back today if she goes under contract. But do you just what exactly would you like me
I
to
want
do?
you to scroll down to the bottom. Well, wait, let's go slow. So at the
Okay.
top, guys, it's transactional details. We're comparing renting versus owning.
Mhm.
This is, you know, clearly a CHAFA.
Yep.
Keep scrolling. So, you know, able to make an informed decision based off of monthly payments. And it looks like the payments were pretty close. And then as you scroll further down, it's showing over 60 months. And then this is what I wanted people to see.
Yep, right here.
Because, oh, well, here's my narrative on this.
Mhm.
I think, you know, especially when I come at it from first home IQ, you know, like we have a financial literacy crisis in America. Most people don't understand how that, hey, prepaying your mortgage can save you a lot of interest and you can
Mhm.
pay off your home faster. By the
Yep.
way, that's a little micro financial literacy lesson. Most people don't know really the power of compounding. And even if they know it intellectually, they don't know it um, personally based, you know, and then most people don't really understand how building wealth with real estate works. And I love
Right.
the way you took this consumer based off their assumption and you showed them like over 5 years. By the way, do you always show 5 years or was there some specific reason why you chose 5 years here?
My assistant did this one for me, and I think she just did this one in 5 years, but you could do any amount.
Yeah. And then of
But
course,
I
I
mean, but
love,
look how much, like look at your net worth in just 5 years,
yeah,
you know?
$100,000.
Like that's huge to explain to people. And people don't think that because sometimes you're right, financial literacy, they're like, well, my rent payment is $300 the less than what you're giving me in mortgage, right? It's kind of scary, but it's just like, well, if you rent, you never have any equity, never ever. So yeah, if you're paying $300 more here, look at your net worth in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Rent has 100% interest. So it is cool things to definitely to show.
Stay on that real quick because
Oh, sure.
I want everyone in this. There are 5 micro lessons, financial literacy lessons, that if every loan officer delivered, first of all, you'd be the best conversion partner for a realtor. You would do the best job of creating value within their sales experience. And you would personally have the best conversion rate that you could have. You'd have the least amount of rate shopping and you'd create the most value for the consumer. And I already listed off 2 of them, you know, power of prepaying debt, which
Yep.
you could do in Mortgage Coach, power of compound interest, which you could do in Mortgage Coach, power of building wealth with real estate. Number 4 is options. If you always show people 2 options or 3 options or 4 options, there's a level of transparency that is uncommon in the mortgage space. And so people, when you show them something uncommon and it's showing a greater level of transparency, there's trust. And then the 5th lesson is the over time. Most loan officers only show, hey, here's your monthly payment. They're not showing, you know, short-term and medium-term points, which is a micro financial literacy lesson that anytime
Right.
you get into debt, look at options, look at them over time. And again, those are the 5 financial literacy steps that I push and I challenge everybody. You go ahead and stop sharing unless you want to show something else on it.
Oh, that was it pretty much. Super easy to do. That one was really basic, right? Just with one option, but usually buyers will send us like 3 to 4 homes that they want priced out, and you could put them all on that same screen and explain to them super easily for them to see the differences all on one screen. So that makes it so much easier. I remember before Mortgage Coach, we would have to send out a LE for every single house that they wanted to look at. So we had to get into our software, we use Encompass, and we would have to change it every single time in Encompass, print, share as PDF as an LE, whereas on here, you could put it all into one. It's the biggest time saver I've had in a long time, for sure.
Yeah, I just interviewed a guy at a bank and they just rolled out Mortgage Coach. And this is not a bag on Encompass, but I've heard that it's slow. And he was like, and I asked him, why'd you start using Mortgage Coach? And he just, because it's faster and easier to use. And so I don't know how your Encompass is, but
Oh, it's slow. It's
slow.
super slow. And then you have to change the purchase price and the down payment, everything for every single home that you want to price out. Whereas you could just go into Mortgage Coach, plug it in, multiple options on one page.
Boom.
Yeah.
So by the way, guys, number 6, getting ahead of NAR and helping realtors, they need, there's a big advantage to being a community leader as a realtor. And if you can be 3 miles famous, if you can be 5 miles, 15 miles famous, you're going to kill it. And being a community leader is important. And so I also want to just push and challenge everyone listening to this. This new NAR settlement topic is a big opportunity for loan officers, for realtors that are going to really embrace it and build a standard and work with great mortgage coaches. I think they're going to win. But number 6 is start educating the next generation. Start, leading into your database and making sure that all the people in your database, hey, they're parents, they've got kids. Some of our grandparents, they've got kids, and we need to start planning to help the next generation achieve homeownership. So highly recommend you guys check out firsthomeIQ.com. One of these days, Shay, and by the way, Shay, you can share have you ever taken the quiz, the First Home IQ quiz?
I don't think so.
I'll forward it to you. It's free. It's 5 minutes.
Okay.
And one of the things that we're trying to do is just get more loan officers sharing the First Home IQ quiz with their database and in their communities so that people are, building financial literacy and getting awareness around that. So check it out.
Okay, I will.
Cool. So any closing thoughts before we wrap this up? Anything else you think would be valuable for your peers?
Yeah, just to kind of bring everything to a whole. It is uncertain times, right? And it's tougher times, but we have got to be the coaches, right? We have got to continue to educate not only our agents, but our buyers as well, right? So it's just, and then again, we just need to bring value to these agents who are a lot more scared than we are right now. I mean, yes, it is uncertain. It does give us uncertainty, but you just need to rise above it. You need to stay one step ahead of the game. And when it comes down to it, sell your agents, sell their worth, and just be the best coach that you can and just keep educating people, and it will work out.
Yeah, I love that you closed on be a coach, because and I know you're into golf and you're into sports.
Yeah.
And I just know I was too. Still am into sports and golf, but all the most valuable people are, to me, growing up, were coaches. And that's why I named the company Mortgage Coach, is I do believe that we need to be the most valuable advisors possible. My closing thought for everyone, I have been really leaning in to helping producing managers. So there's a webpage. I try to talk about it often. It's trustengine.com 10x. And I designed this for producing managers, where some of the best interviews that I've done over the past 2 years that I think are just great sales training. Out of the hundreds of interviews I do a year, like these are the 6 that, if you're a manager, make sure your team watches these. For realtors, I don't know if you noticed this, Shay, but you made the realtor page here. So there's a tab here to train realtors. And this is just a clip. So it's like a couple minutes, I think, of the interview I did with Shay. But what are the best interviews? And on this single page, not only does it train strategy, scripting, how to win, it's got how-to videos on how to use Mortgage Coach. We do training every day of the week. So there's places to get training. And for anyone that's watching this, if you're an individual loan officer, you can sign up here. And if you're a manager and you want to learn enterprise, you can just get a demo here. So I truly believe that for the coaches out there in mortgage land, it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be good. So Shay, thank you so much for being willing to take time and jump on
Absolutely.
Zoom and bring all this leadership into the community.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it as always.
All right. Take care, everybody. Hope you got value, and see you soon.